have just arrived in Reykjavik and we are going to explore the city centre. This is the most northern capital city in the world. Let's explore. If you arrive via the harbour or port like we did, you are greeted by mountains but also the actual embassy with all the Icelandic flags outside, and also the beautiful Iceland Opera House. Reykjavik, like many cities or towns, has an old town or old city area, like an ancient area, as well as a more modern area. We spent the morning looking around the old original Nordic buildings and some of the oldest buildings in Reykjavik. Whenever my partner and I, who I will formally introduce as Johnny throughout these vlogs, and also my mum come on holiday or travelling, we are incredibly nosy and we always also like to look at the house prices. And let's just say, for these very small Icelandic homes in the city centre in the back streets of the old town, it was incredibly expensive. You were looking at £500,000. We do this mainly out of intrigue to teach us something about the economy of the place, and the Icelandic economy is very strong. Whilst walking amongst the back streets, we also found this little surprise, which I previously have shown, but I will show it again. And this happened to be an Icelandic translator and writer, which was one of the original people to translate Homer's Odyssey, which as a philosopher I found very interesting. So that was actually the house of the person that translated Homer from Greek and did lots of work on wildlife as well, which is quite interesting. My first impressions of the city walking around are just not what I expected at all. I thought it would be a very modern capital city, and it's actually pleasantly surprising that it's kept a lot of its heritage, which I feel like a lot of capital cities don't. Like, all the buildings are quite culturally interesting architecturally, so we're just enjoying having a walk around the city centre. And I do have to have my sunglasses on because it is incredibly bright. We're travelling here to Iceland at the time of midnight sun and it is very, very bright, so you're gonna have to deal with me having my sunglasses on all the time while I am here. Right, let's go and explore some more. Rainbows and bright colours everywhere. So as I do these travel vlogs, one thing that I always want to do is be really, really honest, and it is obviously only my opinion about the places that I'm visiting. Now, I have just seen a menu that I personally found a little bit upsetting. Obviously it's a cultural difference and I totally accept that, but with things like puffin and foal, like horses on the menu, I know that happens in certain places in the world, but yeah, it's not something that I feel particularly comfortable seeing, but I accept that it is just the part of another person's culture. Some of the things on the menu, like the sauces and things, like blueberry flavoured hollandaise sauce, sounded really nice, and as a cuisine very interesting to do with the sauces, but let's just say I won't be trying any of the puffin or the Icelandic foal. I actually found out from a local Icelander later in the trip that it is actually very, very rare that they eat the Icelandic horses anymore, but unfortunately it was a part of their cultural heritage. So in some very minor cases, we're talking maybe 1 in 50 restaurants, it is something that is still offered, but it is very rarely actually ordered. It was also originally considered part of their cuisine simply because the Icelandic landscape can barely grow any vegetation and barely has any other animals other than birds and fish and sheep It has limited flora and fauna to a degree because it is the youngest land or place on Earth. It is a volcanic island which we will be exploring more of in the upcoming vlogs. Currently I am just waiting for my mum and Johnny, who have gone in the souvenirs shop looking for little patches. As they said, it's going to be one of the things that they do whilst they're here. As a minimalist way to get a souvenir, they're just going to get little patches that they sew on their bags, like a minimalist travel souvenir thing. So they're in there selecting a patch. I am pleasantly pleased to see they do have some vegan or vegetarian cafes. Obviously, I've mentioned in the past that I am pescatarian, but I also try to be as dairy-free as possible. So there is somewhere we can go, it's okay. We're now going to go try and find somewhere to get a coffee, an Icelandic coffee. They're still looking for patches. I'm just wandering around enjoying the little bits of art in the street and the water features. We found this absolutely lovely, quirky little cafe or coffee shop called Cafe Babalu. And as you're about to see, it was incredibly quirky. It was very colourful with lots of stuff around, but I actually really enjoyed being inside it. It also had a rooftop garden because we were lucky enough to probably be in Reykjavik on the sunniest day of the year in Iceland, so it was absolutely lovely. Right, let's taste this Icelandic coffee. Oh, it's nice, it's quite sweet as well. Nice. So that was a very delicious coffee. We're now going to go explore a little bit more. I can't actually quite get over how bright it is here in Reykjavik. Even though I have my sunglasses on, it's still even too bright for my sunglasses. I think you need like double sunglasses or something. Right, let's go explore some more and possibly have a bit of lunch if we see anything. This was also the first day in ages that any of us had internet access to perhaps message the odd friend that we wanted to. So we weren't all being completely antisocial. We were having a quick 5 minutes on our phones before enjoying our environment, which we absolutely did do. The Icelandic coffee was lovely. Also, you may have noticed that there were lots of troll figurines around the coffee shop, and that is because it is kind of an Icelandic belief in, like a little bit of mythology really, that they kind of like to believe in the folklore of trolls. Next we walked up the famous Rainbow Road that leads to the cathedral at the end and explored some of the quirky little shops amongst the way. I have to say the Nordic ceramics were absolutely beautiful, but definitely reflected the price and the economy of Iceland with each piece. So for instance, one mug being £40, which is about $50 US. We even looked in some of the Icelandic thrift shops, which were also very, very expensive comparative to where I'm from. For instance, an average sweater was still around £40, and the new price in Iceland tended to be around £100 to £200 for a jumper or a sweater. So just a little pause here in the video play whilst I just quickly tell you all that we ended up going for drinks in the Hard Rock Cafe, because if we are ever in a city that has a Hard Rock Cafe, we actually like to support them because of their history with Native Americans. So it's something that we always like to do, and my mum and Johnny also got a patch from in here and we were incredibly happy. So we basically lived off coffee and drinks for the day in Reykjavik today, choosing to eat when we got back home to our home from home. It was at this point in the day that my mum got a little bit tired, so she went back by herself, which she was happy to do. Myself and Johnny spent a little bit longer exploring the streets, and Johnny always finds ways to entertain himself and be as silly as possible. Don't be weird. Stop being weird. In many of these upcoming vlogs. We then had a slow walk back along the front, and we loved all the water features around Iceland. There seems to be a lot of artwork in the streets around Reykjavik specifically, I should say. And here are a few final thoughts from me. So we've been walking around for quite a while. We just went into a cigar shop because Johnny did want a cigar to smoke. But we've been walking around and met lovely, lovely people. We've noticed that a lot of the Icelandic people are very considerate, especially when you are crossing the road, really friendly and talkative. Obviously, there are always going to be cultural differences wherever you go. And sadly, I think every country has traditions that we are not really, or they are not really proud of. So maybe the pony and puffin eating thing is just one of those things, and we're not going to hold that against, you know, an entire culture. So it's always interesting, I think, to fully kind of immerse yourself in a place before making any judgments and taking the bad with the good. And we were pleased to see they did have a lot of vegan options. Tomorrow we are actually going on a big trip of the Golden Circle, seeing lots of natural wonders, and we are getting taken to an Icelandic buffet restaurant. So we'll get to try some of the things that aren't meat orientated. So for instance, I really want to try one of the local delicacies, which is rhubarb crepes. Rhubarb, apparently, just like in Yorkshire, is a vegetable, or I should say a fruit, that is grown a lot in Iceland. So I'm looking forward to trying that, because that is one of our local things, local things as well. So We're now thinking about getting back on board because we've been walking around for several hours and we are quite tired. It has been a very nice day exploring Reykjavik, and we have really enjoyed it being here in the most northern capital city in the world. Apologies, I have to keep my hand above here because it is just so bright at this time of year. It's basically nearly 24 hours of full sunlight, but the sun kind of hits differently. I don't know whether it is because we are basically in the Arctic Circle. It is so bright that I can even feel it still through my sunglasses, so who knows how bright it is without these sunglasses on. But we've had a really nice day getting to know more about the Icelandic culture, especially in regards to some of the views on things like sexuality, very liberal, also to do with sustainability. And let's just say there are pros and cons to every culture that we've really enjoyed getting to find out. We are going on a natural wonders tour tomorrow. My feet are hurting as we have been walking around all day in the most northern capital city in the world. Bye for now. See you in the next Icelandic vlog. There is going to be a series. Bye.